If just one piece of Captain Ree could exist in real life, I think the world would be a better place.
I mean, maybe your green flag is him rearranging your kitchen. I mean, maybe that's a red flag for you. Like for some people, that might be
don't
a red
rearrange my shit.
Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists, and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
So happy sweater weather.
Not yet.
No, not yet. And I did make a rule that we're not allowed to talk about the weather
and you
or
started
vacuums.
And you started it with weather.
And I then destroyed it. Like
you totally did.
I'm such a grandma.
And for that, I'm going to put you on the spot for something that we do need to talk about because September was, you had an intention for September.
I did.
And I'm not at all, this is not at all shaming. This is just, I'm trying to get everybody back on
this
track.
is good. This is what motivates me, is to be shamed publicly.
And I said that I would do the intention with her, and I didn't do it either.
Okay, so it's been a while since we've talked about Supernatural, our VR workout program on the pod.
Give a quick 10-second update on what it is, because I'm not sure how many people
Okay.
It's been a while since we've talked about it.
A long time.
So even though Meta and Oculus pay me no money whatsoever, I sold Leah and Megan on buying themselves an Oculus VR headset so that they could sign up for Supernatural, which is a workout program on the Oculus. And they did it, and they loved it, and for a long while.
6 months.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
more than
you
that.
even traveled to Vegas with it, Leah.
I did. So, no, it was 9 months.
So we were going strong on the Oculus. And then, life happens. I got COVID.
I went to Australia, and I went to Australia, and the power was different, and I couldn't use it.
You brought it, but you couldn't use it.
Yes, I brought it all the way to Australia.
Megan, you didn't go anywhere.
I don't even know what my excuse was.
Yeah,
I feel
a mountain.
I climbed a friggin' mountain.
We just fell off the wagon.
Yes,
Megan and I fell off the wagon, and the wagon kept going to the market with Amy in the back.
Yes. And so I'm back on track. And I miss seeing you guys on my leaderboard because I think we have some healthy competition going when we are all on it as far as who can get the most points for the week, because
and keyword healthy.
And healthy. Yeah, it is healthy. It's healthy competition, and it's because it's also making us healthy. And it's fun too, which is
very fun.
Which is I think the big part of it, because I'm one of those people who all my life has had trouble sticking to an exercise program because I need to be tricked into doing it. I need to be I ran for a while, but I don't enjoy running unless somebody's chasing me. So
and then you enjoy that?
No, I don't. I don't enjoy it, but I enjoy knowing that I will save my life if I run.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, fair.
That's the only thing. So anyway, we're putting it out there. We're setting the intention. We're making it public that Leah and Megan are going to get back in the headset with me. Any of you out there, if you have an Oculus, if you are on Supernatural, please look us up and friend us on there because we would love to hang out with you. I actually think that people who I'm already friends with on Oculus might need to refriend me because they made us change our logins because it's now owned by Meta, because isn't everything owned by Meta?
And this is a great time to do it because I feel as much as New Year's resolutions are
but why wait until
good for some
the end of the
people?
year?
Exactly. I feel let's do it now because I feel then I've got momentum. And this is what I did last time when I did it. So I felt by the time New Year's came around, I was oh, I've already been going for 3 months and it felt good. So yeah, I was just talking about the fact that I think what I've gotten into is that when I look around at my life, it is not that I'm not busy. It's that I think that if I'm doing something for someone else or I'm doing something that involves others, because I would say the podcast is for me. However, I'm accountable to all of you and anyone listening, I feel accountable to the whole community. Whereas if it's I don't work out, it affects me, but no one else. And so it's easy to let those things be the things that you neglect.
Right. That's the only thing that's only accountable for you.
Yeah.
So it's easier to let that slide.
I feel that's what I'll triage when I'm busy, and I'm always busy. But there's also busy and busy. So, I mean, look, I know what I need to do. And I was saying that, like, for me personally, it's writing for myself because I do have a writing business. And so I'm accountable to that as well. But writing for myself and exercising for myself are two things that I think we were just talking about the language that we use too, that I get to do. Not that I should do, not that I have to do, but those are things that I get to do.
You get to, you choose to.
Yeah.
So speaking of the language, because I was talking about some training that I'm doing at work, another exercise that we did that I think this could apply to anybody is we had to pick 7 different roles that we have. They're like, if you're a mom, who do you serve? If you're a partner, like the role and who you serve in that role. And, you had to pick 7. You had to go down and identify 7 of them. Then when we get done writing down our 7, our leader for the training today was like, how many of you put yourself as one of those roles? And nobody did.
Yeah, no.
Nobody did. Not one person. Because you don't think of yourself as someone you should serve. And you are.
It's like, so funny. And
it weird. Is. And I feel like we've talked about this before about like how we like value doing that and value like my time and value our time. But it's still like, even when we have that value and we're like trying to be overt and push back against these ideas that like being selfish isn't bad, it's like so deeply ingrained that like, you're right. Like when it's like, who do you serve? Yeah, of course you're not going to think of yourself. And
you
what
should.
A truth bomb that is.
Right?
Like speaking of, like supernatural and kind of doing things yourself. So my husband and my son ran a 5K recently, and I was really so proud of them. Like my husband isn't necessarily like he's getting into running now, but he's never really been like a runner. But he just kind of was like, look, I want to do it with our son. And my son's been getting into running, and I mean, he just went out there and he ran it, and I was so proud of them. And I did say to my husband, I was like, look, I felt really inspired, and I was like, I want to do this next year. I want to do this run next year. I want to do a 5K. That's like my goal within a year.
Yeah.
So now that I said
Couch to 5K is a great program. I've done Couch to 5K because what I tend to do is couch to the 5K and then like nothing ever again. And then like
back to the couch.
Years later, I'm like, well, time to do that again. But it does work.
Yeah. And I really, because I was just like, you know what? I saw all these people out there running, and it just seemed like, I don't know, it was like a positive, like fun event. There were just people of all ages, and I was like, I want to do this. So I need to get back into supernatural, get my kind of like my cardio better, get stronger.
Yeah.
And
have endurance so we can live a long time and podcast for 100 years.
And you know what? I think I'm going to segue here, because what you're doing is you are choosing to serve yourself as your own green flag heroine.
Yes. Yes.
That is how, okay.
Hey,
that's pretty good.
Hey, it is better than some others that we've had.
Choosing to be my own green flag hero. I like it.
So maybe we should get into what that is.
Yeah.
These days, many of us are quick to call out red flag potential partners, and in relationships we see unfolding around us, whereas green flags tend to get a lot less attention. So you are probably aware of like what the term red flag means in relationships. They're often like things that come out during the dating stage of a relationship, and they're problematic qualities that can signal a potentially unhealthy relationship like lays ahead. But on the other side of the spectrum are green flags. So behaviors or qualities that show that the person you're with has a potential to behave in emotionally and physically healthy, mature, and generally lovely ways down the road. So in a nutshell, green means safe to proceed, whereas red means stop and watch out.
That's a good definition. I like that. I think that, I will say that when this topic first came up as something to do, is this a term that we came up with? Does it exist? Like I'd never heard of it before. So that's why I think it's cool to bring it up. But is it something that anybody has talked about before? Or is it, like you said, Leah, like something that just kind of gets neglected because we're much more inclined to point out bad things than we are good. You know, just like if you have like a bad day, like you're much more inclined to like point out all the bad things that happened in your day, even if there were good things as well.
Yeah, I mean, I originally saw the term green flag on Twitter. I just saw
I was
a
gonna
lot
say,
of...
certainly did not coin it.
Okay.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I didn't know where it came from because I, like, when it got brought up, I was like, oh, I've never heard that before.
Right, yeah, I definitely saw on Twitter people would be like, and I even saw it like relating to K-dramas, like, oh, well, this was like a green flag hero moment, and I was like, okay, well, that's really fun.
Yeah.
I really like that. It felt positive. Not that we always have to be positive because we certainly aren't, but that's a more fun topic for me to talk about than just like a whole episode of like heroes with red flags in K-dramas. I think it's fun to talk about, you know, yeah, the good stuff.
About, the kind of relationships that actually feel good. And the other thing is that I think like it must have kind of like come out of the zeitgeist of like green flags being talked about in like the wider media too, because when I was like, you know, looking around on the you know, on the great World Wide Web, why did I even say World Wide Web? Well, I was on the internet.
World Wide Web.
Okay, Al Gore.
We were talking about the World Wide Web and how I'm 90 years old. I talk about the weather and I talk about the World Wide Web. But okay, so when I was kind of just like, you know, I was like, I'm going to like, you know, Google around on green flag heroes or green flag relationships and kind of just see like what's out there. And there is a lot more like kind of like current as of 2022 kind of like conversations about looking for green flags in relationships, which I think is great because it's kind of like, look, like we acknowledge, like, why just always be like, hey, look at the red flags to stay away from? Like, let's talk about manifesting, like we were talking about earlier, if we're going to bring that back and say, like, let's set our attentions to call in the things that we want to see. And so, you know, a lot of these things are like fairly common sense, but they're like things that you just want to think about when you're like, what are qualities that are going to make a good partner? So things like you would listen well. It's a person who's comfortable talking about feelings. They have self-awareness and empathy. You know, what else? The relationship moves at a comfortable pace, right? Like they're not like taking you and like trying to like love bomb you and escalate into like, you know, forcing you into like this like forever commitment before you're ready, right?
Right. And I would say too that I think there would be different green flags for different people.
For sure.
So maybe it's like a good idea to like think about that. Like, well, what are your green flags?
What are you looking
like,
for?
You might, maybe you know what you don't want, but do you know what you do want? So like, you know, it's probably a good idea to, and K-dramas might even help that. You might even be able to watch K-dramas and be like, okay, well, that's a green flag I do want.
Emotional availability. That's a green
flag.
flag.
And so, me. I mean, I think that like, you know, we can say that like realistically, you know, K-dramas are obviously fiction, right? And these are fictional men in fictional situations. However, fiction can inform fantasy and fantasy can inform, you know, fiction, obviously. And so, yeah, I think that like, it's good to be like, hey, I'm enjoying seeing emotional availability, like Amy said. That doesn't mean that like everyone's going to be like a K-drama hero because that's like not real. But, you know, it means that like, that could be a really nice thing for you that like, oh, I've been like often dating men who are still caught up in like patriarchal ideas of like, you know, emotions mean weakness and badness. And I'd like to have somebody who's a little more involved in that.
And that's okay. Mm-hmm. And that can be real. Like you can take an aspect from something fictional and something fantasy and pull that into real life and it can exist. The actual hero himself is not going to exist. I'm sorry.
No.
Like Captain Ree.
There is no Captain Ree.
Is not in the real world. He never...
no one's going to crawl 24 hours through a tunnel, get an artful scratch, and then, you know...
And not smell or soil himself or anything like that,
right.
Or want to sex you.
Right. And so he'll sleep in another bedroom.
Just give you a warm hug, and then let you play dress up on their amazing body.
And then program your phone for a year.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, it's not.
He just wants to organize your ramen.
If just one piece of Captain Ree could exist in real life, I think the world would be a better place.
I mean, maybe your green flag is him rearranging your kitchen. I mean, maybe that's a red flag for you. Like for some people, that
don't rearrange my shit. You are.
But what is something that for you, I mean, here's a question that's like not in the script, but to like freeball a little bit. Like, you know, what is one thing that is a green flag for you that like when you see it, you're like, I like that?
Other than emotional availability?
Oh, you can do emotional availability. Megan, do you have one?
I would say I love when I would say like in relation to K-dramas, like I really love a hero. Maybe this is a low bar. Like maybe this is pathetic and a low bar, but I just love when he lets her speak. He doesn't talk over her. He listens to what she has to say and responds accordingly. Like is actually listening, and also shows that deference in front of other people. So he's giving her that respect in front of other people. I would say that when I get to talk about like the green flag hero, that was like one of the biggest things about him. Is that he's clearly like respecting her in front of others and isn't trying to
Put up a front, like to
put up a front or have this like old toxic masculinity thing where he feels like he's the one who has to be the alpha in front of her.
And I think something that I just innately enjoy is when somebody can treat other people well, even if no one's watching. So like how somebody treats, you know, a waiter, how someone treats a cashier.
big.
Oh, yeah.
Big green flag.
Yeah, I mean, like,
If you're an asshole to a food server, forget it. Like, forget it.
and I mean, like, look, you don't have to be like annoying best friend, but like just that basic decent courtesy of like treating humans in like a human way. I mean, like, I guess that's a low bar, but yeah, I feel like it's a real reflection on how they're going to, you know, treat you and how they're going to treat other people that are important to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I even remember one of the first, oh my gosh, I mean, it was maybe one of the first times I was with Neil, like out in public when we had started dating. And I remember that, I don't know if we were like in a subway or a bus, or I don't remember where we were, but I just remember he got up and like I got up too. Like he was like, I think we should stand up. And I was kind of like, huh, why? And it was for a pregnant woman. And he was like, get your ass up because you're like 18, this woman. And I'm like, that's hot. Sure, you're right. That's hot. That's hot. I will always, of course, I can't remember the details, but you know, it's the feeling I remember.
Sure. And look, I mean, like everyone knows that I'm like a BTS fangirl, and something that I don't know why this really matters to me, but I delight in stories of like just folks, you know, like people that are working backstage or service folks. And everyone seems to have these like very good things to say of like they show up, they're kind, they are courteous, they, you know, it's like not overdone. They're just like they treat people kindly. And it makes me love them with all my heart and soul.
No, I agree. It was funny. I was watching a video of ATEEZ where they're meeting the new boy group that's going to be debuting under the same company, which is KQ Entertainment. And the boys were kind of like, do you have any advice for us? And San was like, be kind to the staff.
Oh, San.
That was like the first thing he said was be kind to the staff. And I was like, oh my God. Like that was his, it's not even like about, it's just the fact that like, yes, like that is the energy I want to see being put out. Like that's a good representative for me.
Yeah, entitled behavior is just never attractive.
Not on anybody.
All right.
And if my K-drama hero is acting entitled, my favorite part is when he's humbled.
Yes, I think that's a great point. So, okay. So first up, Amy, why do you think there's this idea out there that girls love a bad boy? And when I was thinking about this question, you know, my hunch is that it ties in a lot to those ideas of universal fantasies that we've talked about before on the pod.
I mean, I think it's 100% universal fantasy. Like, I love a bad boy in fiction, but like a happily ever after with a bad boy who is kind of like a static bad boy, remains a bad boy, like that's not sustainable. That's why if there is a bad boy in fiction, whether it's, you know, a drama or a book or whatever, the only way that relationship works is if he changes some way. And so I've talked about my favorite vampire, Damon Salvatore from The Vampire Diaries, before on the pod, and I'll bring him up again. Because the thing about Damon is that he's not a static bad boy. He gets a lot of seasons to grow and change. And his reasons for why he is the way that he is are also unknown in the beginning, and you realize that, you know, what you see in the first couple of seasons isn't really who he is, because there's a lot of history, like hundreds of years of history that have led up to that. But if he didn't change and grow, he would not have been a sustainable partner. And so in a book or a movie or a drama, I think we can live out our bad boy fantasies because we know that it ends when the book or the drama or the movie ends, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing about it. Like, we know we can have that short-lived fantasy, that short adventure that checks this little box and allows us to then in real life understand that longevity comes from finding someone who doesn't raise those red flags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And then Megan, you know, for the last couple of years, you've been writing these big alpha hulking aliens. So, you know, when you're putting together a romantic hero, how do you decide how to walk a line between possessive hot or possessive uh-oh? Like, and should there even be a line? Because romance is also this like fantasy space.
So I write what I'm comfortable writing. And right now, that's, you know, hulking possessive aliens who still ask for consent and allow the heroines to make their own choices. I actually made a TikTok on my author account recently where I started with, "Ooh, when the big alpha alien won't take no for an answer, ... And then I like paused and I was like, never mind. My aliens always ask for consent. And it, you know, it made me laugh. And, you know, it was funny because I had a comment, from someone who has read my books, and she's like, I was gonna say your aliens would never, like, she like knew, she was like confused about my TikTok when it started. And look, I read dark and taboo romance with like bad boys, and I don't think there is a line in that fantasy space. Just piggybacking off what Amy said, it's a fantasy,
and you go
space.
into it knowing that it's a fantasy
and you
space.
Go into it,
yes,
exactly. I know what I'm getting when I read a dark romance, and I'm again consenting to that fantasy in that respect. But I also do think that that's why dark romance should be labeled appropriately, because a lot of readers don't want to read taboo, and they could obviously be triggered by certain situations. And I really think it's all about readers and trust. I would say at this point, my readers trust that my books that I write under Ella Maven are not going to get too dark. And I even took like one book like a little far, and I got pushback on it. And I respect that. Like I take that trust very, very seriously. So to the point where if I did venture into darker territory, I would make it extremely clear, or I'd probably write under a different name, because it matters to me that readers get what they want.
They know what they're getting when they open one of your books.
Yeah. And so I want them to have, you know, the fantasy that I'm presenting. And if they want that darker fantasy, then they can get that from a different author. I mean, obviously that's like, I'm a mood reader too, and sometimes I don't want the darker stuff, but sometimes I do, and that's okay. So yeah, I do think that line can go, or I don't really think there is a line. I just think what is appropriate is that you're making sure you communicate what you are writing so that readers know what to expect.
Leah, can you unpack the time you were asked to read a book that ended up being the reddest flag relationship in the world?
Okay, so I've talked about this on the pod before, and I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. I'm not naming names. I'm not going to give the book title. But when I was a baby author, I was asked to read a book by another debut author, and it was billed as a new adult romance. So by definition, this means that the characters were roughly 18 to 24, maybe 26 at the top end, and that since it's a romance, we have the promise of an HEA, or happily ever after. So here's the thing. The hero was dark and broody and mysterious, and he'd been set up to have these like dead girlfriends in his past. And so you're like, ooh, what's the story? And like, whatever. Well, he is a serial killer. Like, he straight up murders his girlfriends. And at the end, he really wants to murder.
He really wants to murder.
And and like she's all, well, if it makes him happy.
If it makes you happy.
I'm not even kidding. I'm not
It
even
can't be
fucking
that
kidding.
bad.
So he basically goes ahead and murders her, except like he tries to murder her. Like he intentionally attempts to murder her. And like is a bit sad after he does. Because the end of the book, spoiler, she doesn't die. But like she's watching him watch her die. And he's like has this like manic happy face because he's so happy to murder her. And then she sees his face change as he's like, like she's gonna die, and she's not like the other girls. Like I kind of want to keep.
You know you're special
like
when
the
I
other
don't
girls.
really want to kill you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So look, I read it. I was like, okay, well, like the writing was fine. It's a thriller, like a psychological thriller. It's deeply fucked up, and that's fine. Like there's books that are fucked up and like, you know, weird and totally okay. But it's not a romance. And so I like contacted her and was like, look, you know, this book is what it is, right? Like you wrote a book about like, you know, you like this is fine. Like, you know what I mean? But it is a fucked up thriller. It's not a romance. And the author respectfully disagreed. And I was like, well, it's like the conventions of like the genre. It's not like me being like, you know, World Wide Web Leo.
Like
there
is
I was like, it actually is like legitimately.
It's not a romance.
Yeah, like this is just how it goes. And I remember the argument that she gave me was like, well, you know, because Game of Thrones was going at the time. She's like, when you see Game of Thrones and you see Jaime Lannister, don't you think he's like hot? I was like, to me personally, I absolutely do. Yes, he fucks his sister and throws 100%. A kid out the window.
Yep.
And I still think he's hot. Yeah. I will say that. And I also don't think he's a romance hero.
Nor
like it's
Game
just
of
me
Thrones
personally
in any
being
way
like
a romance.
No, clearly not. So if I find something problematic in Game of Thrones hot, that's on me and like my own fucked up journey. But that's not like, you know, you don't go put that in the bookstore as like brother, sister, incest, child murderer. And so that was the end of that conversation with that author. Yeah, I got pushed back. The author was not, you know, the author, I think, just didn't want to. Sometimes, you know, people ask for your opinion and they don't really want your opinion. They just want you to say, yes, I like it. And in this case, I was like, as far as books go, like, you know, sure, if you were like, here's a real dark, twisted mofo book, I'd be like, well, dang, you succeeded and Godspeed to you. But in this case, I'm like, no, this is not going to go in like the romance section of a book. And it was a major publisher who was putting it out. And they did. They put it out as a romance. And that's why we can't have nice things.
Right? Oh, God.
Okay. So, you know, when it comes to romance, are you team bad boy or team nice guy?
So I would say like I'm team nice guy with an alpha edge, like Park Sero-wi or Captain Ri. And like, look, sometimes I like to read like a totally wacky, toxic hero, but I read it for like pure enjoyment. Like, so I recently read this book. I'm going to say the title because I loved it. It's called Run, Posey, Run. The hero is a straight up psychopath. Or is it sociopath? What's the one where you have no empathy?
Sociopath.
Like he is. Like it's like is a psychopath?
Psychopaths have no empathy.
Well, he's one of those. And like it's in the text that he is. Like he knows that he cannot express like emotions. He's like Lee Joon-gi in Flower of Evil. It's nuts. He's crazy. He kidnaps a heroine at one point, throws her in the trunk of the car. It's great. I loved it. I loved every single bit of it. It's a romance. There's an HEA. But it's not like I'm like crushing on that hero myself. Like I'm just reading that book for like pure enjoyment. And like I got it and I loved it. But like obviously there's no green flags there.
No.
There's no no green flags. And so for me, like, I think there's a difference there. I think you can read about toxic heroes or even watch toxic heroes. Like, that's fine. There's no, like, reason you can't. It's just, for me, I watch those things to be entertained and for, like, enjoyment purposes. And like you said, Amy, you're like watching that for like a finite amount of time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. You know, it ends. And it's not sustainable in real life.
No. But I'm like, that's cool. I'll be entertained for,
but I guess,
for that.
So my question then is, like, it's an HEA. Is he still like a psychopath or sociopath at the end?
Yeah. Well, it's actually, like, this is incredibly clever writing. Like, for real. It's very smart writing. He basically has to learn what love is. And he, in a way, like, he has to learn, this is so hard to explain. Like, he's like, okay, so that's love. Like, I didn't know.
This is how I behave if I love someone.
Correct. Like, this is how I'm going to interpret love. Because I can't view love the same way you do, like the heroine.
Right.
Obviously, like, in the text, it's honestly very smart. It's a great book. I love all this author's books, but yeah, it's actually really, really interesting how she deals with it, because he's not like magically cured. He's not cured. There's no cure. Like, he just kind of like adapts, I would say.
I mean, that's interesting, because I feel like it kind of goes with our conversation. Well, both our conversations that we had in Extraordinary Attorney Woo, with this idea of, you know, anyone who has any sort of neurodivergence, right? Mm-hmm. They respond differently emotionally. And it's, I mean, when we're getting into like psychopathic or sociopathic behavior, there's obviously, you know, violence connected to that. So that might be like a little bit of a different thing. But this idea that just because you operate differently, like you have a different sort of chemical makeup, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have these emotions, like that you don't experience love. You just experience it differently, kind of thing. So I find that interesting. I personally, I wouldn't seek out a toxic type, because to me that sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, like a toxic hero. You know what I mean?
I get it.
So
yeah, I totally get it.
So like I might happen upon that, but I don't seek it out. But like the bad boy hero type thing, I do like. But again, I like my bad boy heroes with growth, so that even when the story ends, I can imagine some sort of, you know, that it's not just a happy for now, that there's some sort of sustainability, you know, going on there. But I think because when I read a romance or when I watch a romance, and I think we all do this to some extent, we insert ourselves in as the heroine. If it's, you know, a cishet romance and we are cishet, like whatever, you know, whichever way you identify. But I, you know, when I'm watching a cishet romance, I insert myself as the heroine. And so for me, I want a hero that I think could be sustainable outside of my fantasy, even if it is a vampire, right? Like that's why I like to see after like 7 years that, like, you know, that Damon's like a good, you know, person sort of, you know, kind of thing. So yeah, that's why heroes like Park Seo-wi, which I can't believe you took him after all your thoughts on.
I just mentioned him.
I know. But no, but like that's why heroes like him and like Captain Ree, who are like larger than life, too good, like would never exist in my real life. But that's why I like to insert myself into that kind of fantasy too, because that's like the ultimate happily ever after, right? Like where you have like the alpha hero with the fanny pack. Like that's a big fantasy for me, and that's the type of hero that I seek out.
Yeah, that's fair. I think my fantasy sweet spot is the grappling that kind of happens in the middle here of the Venn diagram. So one hero I really love is Rhys Sander from Sarah J. Maas's fantasy series. Really just Court of Mist and Fury.
Just that one. Just that book.
Yeah, just that one. So, you know, Rhys is messed up and like he's an anti-hero. But then like, oops, he's also a very good human. Like he would be great to
he's good.
wait
He's
staff.
good fae. Because he's not.
Yeah, he's good. Oh, God,
he's not human.
Oh, God. Okay.
He's not human.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, he's also a very good fae, a very good being who is like loyal to his people. So, look, I can forgive a lot, apparently, if an anti-hero is going to be all in for the people that they love.
Yeah.
And I also really like, BDSM, romances, and ones that have, in particular, a quality dom. And these are very hard to get right. Like, I am so picky on this, and it's rare and delightful to me when I find one, because for me personally, I find these get very effed up in the execution, to me, in my taste. So to me, a good dom requires a lot of intuition, emotional and mental intelligence, self-awareness, compassion, communication, responsibility, and respect. So I feel like in fiction and in real life, like, I feel like there's a lot of people that like just want to be bossy and like sexually assertive and are like, I want to be the dom. And it's like, no, that's not it. Like, that's not what, like, it's like the alpha with the fanny packs. Like,
Right.
It's a lot more responsibility than that.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, I like the nice guy in the streets and the bad boy in the sheets. Boom.
Love it.
Okay, so before we get into K-dramas, just who's a favorite Western green flag hero, and what do you love or appreciate about them?
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Lucas from Stranger Things, played by Caleb McLaughlin. He's just a lot of green flags. Okay, so the way this kid crushes on Max is just adorable. Especially, I would say season 4 was a lot of green flags. Okay, the kid's like, he's more mature now, he's in high school, a lot of green flags. Okay, he pays attention to her very much, more so than a lot of like her other friends. He knows when she's down. He is actively aware that she is having a depressive episode, and he checks in on her frequently. He gives her like the most amazing pep talks. Like, oh my gosh. And I don't want to give away like Stranger Things, but he does so much for her in season 4, and he does so much for his friends. And
not at first,
he gets
though. Not at first.
Not at first, but
yes.
Not at first, but then he pulls out that green flag, and then he is all in for his friends, for his sister, and completely would do anything for Max. I mean, really sacrifices a whole lot for Max.
Ugh.
And and he was the one who knew what song would save her. Look, if you have seen it,
right.
Lucas
knew.
Is the reason.
Lucas is the reason for Kate Bush being back on the radio.
Right. Lucas is the reason. It's just this is the deal. He pays attention. He pays attention to the person that he cares about, which is Max. And yeah, I just love Lucas. Again, in season 4, Lucas was tons of green flags.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I think he was a character who showed some really good growth throughout the season, because things happen in high school. You change, you sort of splinter off from your friends into different groups and stuff. And I like that Lucas saw. I mean, this is not a spoiler, but Lucas saw that the people that he had aligned himself with were actually pretty toxic. And
he did. He figured it out.
And that was, that's a hard thing to do when you are a freshman in high school, Right. So yeah, that was pretty impressive. Okay. So for me, for Western green flag heroes, I think it's a toss-up between Jim Halpert from The Office and Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec.
Oh, those are both such good
I know.
ones.
It's I'm like, I couldn't, and like, of course, like they're both, two of my favorite shows, and both, two Mike Schur shows, because I watch everything that Mike Schur does. So anyway, Jim and Ben. Jim's love for Pam is patient and supportive, even while she is in a toxic relationship with someone else. Because, Roy is toxic. Come on. Mm-hmm. Jim does not manipulate her into loving him. Does he make some dumb decisions in his own love life as a result of his unrequited love? Sure. But don't we all? Like, if we feel rejected by somebody, we're, going to try and fill that void. And so Jim gets in some other relationships while he's waiting for Pam, but ultimately he waits for Pam. And if this is at all a spoiler for you, like, fuck you for not watching The Office yet. Like,
I think it's okay.
It's okay. But at the end of the day, when they do finally get together, it's a healthy, sustainable relationship. Like, they do have their ups and downs, but like, because it's a healthy relationship, it's sustainable. And as for Ben and Leslie on Parks and Rec, come on. He's the most supportive guy even when he's at a crossroads in his own career. He still like lifts Leslie up and helps her achieve, even when it might be at the cost of him being able to achieve what he wants to achieve in his political career. And I think the best thing is their wedding vows to each other. Leslie says it. I don't know if they both do. I think they both do, but she says it first. And she says, I love you and I like you. And I don't know, like, that's just the epitome of green flag to me. Like somebody that it's not just that your heart goes pitter pat and you love them, but you like them as a human being too. And that's huge.
I love that.
And I love Jim. And if you don't think that you like Office shows, I too did not realize I did. And now I know I do. And The Office is one of my favorite shows of all time. And Jim is one of my favorite heroes of all time.
Not Dwight.
Look, do you want me to talk about my love for Dwight? My sick, dirty, disgusting attraction to Dwight?
No.
Because I can. But I don't think
Let's
anyone
move on
wants
to
to hear
you
that right
stealing
now.
a green flag hero from me.
Yeah. So,
which is okay because we could talk
this
about we could talk about these people forever, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, look, okay, so later in this podcast, Amy's going to touch on this hero, but I didn't realize that, we kind of like write in our notes, I kind of just go right down the wire, and so I put one in, and then later I saw Amy kind of circled back on this one, so look, we both love him. And so, while I love Lucas, and I really love Jim, I'm going to give a shout out to Schitt's Creek's butthurt-voiced beau, Patrick. So Patrick is thoughtful and practical, and he balances out David's more chaotic creative energy. And I really like how he navigated his sexuality really deftly, moving from a cishet dude to having feels unexpectedly for his business partner to becoming a queer husband. And there was no like gay panic or shame like to unpack within the show, and I really was grateful for that. And to me, this is a character who demonstrated really great boundaries. He listened. And something else I really enjoyed was how he would hold space. So, when there was a lot of big feels coming at him from David, he was very good at kind of creating a space where that was allowed to happen, but in like a safe way and never becoming like a doormat. And I love how he wears his heart on his sleeve. And Amy's going to get into that a little bit later, but for me, he is simply the best.
Oh. How dare you? How dare you say that last line?
So, who is a top favorite K-drama green flag hero, and what attributes make them a green flag?
So I'm going to go with Park Hyung-sik as Yi Hyun in Happiness. That man is just a walking green flag. I just don't even know what to say about him.
He really is.
I feel like you just have to watch the whole drama to like get it.
A beautiful Disney prince walking green flag.
He looks like a Disney prince. I mean, just put him in a live action like Disney show. Like he can sing, just put him in. I want to see Park Hyung-sik. He could have been
Prince Eric in The Little Mermaid.
Ugh, no, he's too good to be Prince Eric. I hate The Little Mermaid.
Like...
I mean, I'm so happy for The Little Mermaid's representation, but overall, that's like a garbage romance.
So Yi Hyun, first of all, he was a great leader. Like, let's just get that right out there. He does have his fanny pack of cheesy crackers, absolutely. He cared about like all his people aka, the residents of the apartment who were under attack from infected zombies. I mean, he's a detective, okay? And he really took it upon himself that he's like, I'm a detective, so my responsibility is to keep these people alive. Like, even when these people were like shitty people, he's still like, this is my duty to be like a good human. And his romance with Sebom, oh my God, his crush of like a decade. He respected her so much, like beyond, and she was definitely an alpha female. He deferred to her often. Like they would have, of course, that's one thing about this drama. They kept having meetings.
So many meetings.
Stop having meetings.
So many apartment meetings.
So many. But he would often, the two of them would talk and they would collaborate on how to deal with the problems. And they would listen to each other respectfully. He would often let her talk. He didn't try to be the man and bust in there and take over the meeting. And he did it in a way that still made him like so hot. Like he like exuded positive masculinity instead of like, again, instead of the opposite. He absolutely, I mean, if you've seen Happiness, without, saying too much, he sacrificed a hell of a lot. He sacrificed so much for Sebum and for others. He just respected her, and overall, honestly, he's just like the biggest green flag. I do just want to give an honorable mention to So Kyung Myung, played by Park Sung Hoon from Into the Ring. If we're going to talk about another green flag hero and someone who's just incredibly supportive, listens, and isn't full of toxic masculinity, it's him.
Yeah, that's a good one. Those are both really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I was going to go all Kang Tae-oh here on Extraordinary Attorney Woo, but I talked a lot about him in our Extraordinary Attorney Woo pods. So I'm gonna let him rest. And I wanted to choose someone who was more well-rounded, because we did talk about how, the character of Junho was pretty two-dimensional. So I want to talk about somebody who's well-rounded as far as how the character is written. So I'm going with Kim Sun-ho in Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha. So despite his character, Do-shik, living with a secret trauma for most of his adult life, Hong Do-shik is basically everyone else's rock. Not just Haijin, our lovely dentist, played by Shin Min-ah, but everyone in town. They all depend on him, and he is 100% there for everyone when they need him. I think his character's biggest flaw is not being able to turn the table and accept help from everybody else, or even admit that he needs it. But as far as being like talk about the metaphorical fanny pack with the crackers. Like, you need a handyman, he's your guy. Like,
oh my god, remember when he like renovated her?
He could do everything.
That whole office.
Yes,
ugh.
Like he was, like the jack of all trades around town. Like,
yeah,
you need a real estate agent, he's your guy. Like everything, he's got every license possible. Like, it was adorable and so fun.
You need a perfect Americano, he's your guy.
He's your guy, right?
Yeah, literally, yeah,
everything. But yeah, I mean, I think that was, because like our green flag heroes aren't at all perfect, right? Like it's not like they're perfect humans. And so I like that we have this guy who is there for everybody. He is flawed, and he needs to be vulnerable and ask for his own help and forgive himself for, past trauma. But if you need him, he is there for you.
Mm-hmm. God, loved him.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Young-sik from When the Camellia Blooms.
You don't say.
I know, because we all know how much I love Kang Han-nul. So this is a character who falls fast and hard, but when he does, what he does is he ensures his love interest, the single mom Dong-baek, knows he is emotionally available. Ding, ding, ding for Amy. This man is very emotionally available.
Yes. I love him.
He's also a protector without being dominating. He respects her physical space. He doesn't ever hump her leg like a horny dog. Like, he lets her kind of like come to him physically. Like, he's not pressuring her ever physically. And hot. He looks out for her son as if he was his own.
He's that I don't know how
11.
I didn't think of him first.
Episode
Biggest,
11.
Yeah. He's like a 100 out of 10 green flag hero.
All right. And so just for a little wag of the finger, who is a character who gets a certified Afternoona Delight red flag award?
The hero in 1% of something. And I know a lot of people do like this drama. I just had someone on Twitter who was like, that's my favorite drama. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And that's totally cool if you like it. But I'm entitled to tell you I didn't. I think he was extremely toxic. He put the heroine through the ringer for nothing, communicated poorly, was not a good boss. He would not tip the waitstaff well. He probably would not thank the janitor, okay? He's just a jerk. And he also wore terrible suits. I still can't believe they put Captain Rhee's brother in this role. It makes me sad.
I love that you chose a red flag hero who you just hate, and Leah and I both chose red flag heroes that we love.
I can't. You know what? Let me say right now, though. Let me say. So I'm watching If You Wish Upon Me, and Ji Chang-wook's character. So many red flags. Like, He is the biggest red flag character. However, the transition of him realizing what his red flags are and how to turn them green is fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
That basically.
I mean, that's hot.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
very hot.
100%.
He is learning. He is learning his red flags. He's learning the reason he has those red flags, and he's learning how to turn them green. It's great, but
Well, you just sold. I mean, how to sell me on a drama? You just
okay,
did it.
but it episode 1, and there's this like, this isn't a spoiler. Like, there's like a doctor who's like full of green flags, who likes the heroine, full of green flags. He's really great, but he's not right for her. It isn't really like a love triangle that you're gonna, but it is funny. I remember, like, there was a point where I was like, she really should probably just go with the doctor, because Ji Chang-wook is so many red flags. But again, the transition has been delightful to watch.
I mean, I know I've talked about his lightning bolt shirt before, but the suit jacket that goes with the lightning bolt shirt is also a red flag, which has a giant sequined skull on the back.
Yeah, it's so
that is
bad.
like literally the entire length and width of the jacket. A giant sequined skull.
It's so bad. I love it so much.
But you're right. I'm on episode 5. Like, he's out of it. Like, it's totally fine.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So for me, I'm going Gu Junpyo from Boys Over Flowers. Like, toxic as fuck, but I love him so.
Yeah. I mean, I will never, ever not find him pointing at his foot and telling the heroine to lick his shoe.
Lick the ice cream off of it. Yeah.
Look, I'm sorry. It's not in real life. No. That would be like, nope, done. But in this, I'm like, like, his mom didn't love him enough.
But he has
he's always sitting at this giant dining room table alone with servants bringing him food. Like, it's very sad.
Yeah, yeah.
Does he thank the wait staff?
No, fuck no. But I bet he...
No, they curl his hair for him. Like...
Right.
Okay, so for me, it's a drama that you haven't seen, either of you, Moon Lovers, Scarlet Heart Ryo, and it is the fourth prince, Wong So, played by Lee Joon-gi.
I mean, that's all I gotta say.
And look, like, okay, he's not real. So I don't want my friends in real life to date him. But this dude is like Phantom of the Opera, sexy AF in the show. And what do we know about this Phantom of the Opera? I've always been a Phantom girl. But like, Phantom is fucked up. Like, he kidnaps someone and takes her to like the basement of the opera house and like holds her hostage. Wong So is just very obsessive. He has a lot of issues. He does sacrifice a lot of morals. But, he's got lovable qualities too. It's just that, like, at the end of the day, I'm trying to just think of, like, where do I go without spoilers or not spoilers? I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's going to like you, but if he needs to fuck his sister, he will.
Oh my God.
That's definitely
I mean, that
off
kind of
in
sold
fantasy
me.
land, because we don't
That
want,
kind of sold me.
like Jamie Lannister, like, we don't want the guy who fucks his sister in real life.
No.
But
Right.
in fantasy land.
And I'm not saying he wanted to fuck his sister. He just had to fuck his sister for reasons.
Oh my God.
As one does.
Well, now you should have told me that from the beginning. That's how you sold me.
Mandatory
Horrible.
sister fucking sells
Yeah.
Megan.
Duty calls. Duty calls. Duty calls, sister fucking edition. Is that like the worst video game? Isn't there like a video game called Duty Calls?
Call of
It's called
Duty.
Call of Duty. Duty calls.
I mean,
World
vaguely
Wide
aware.
Web.
Oh my God. Isn't that a video game? Duty calls.
Is Duty Calls a video game on the World Wide Web?
Oh shit. Leah, that was so funny.
Oh my God. Oh God. Okay.
Okay. Well, now it's time for our favorite segment of the week. It's our K-pop rec, and this week we have Leah.
And I am going with a interesting choice because this song hasn't dropped yet, but it's dropping in like 6 hours.
Well, it will have dropped by the
And
time this episode's out.
Yeah, and I can tell it's already amazing. So look, right now we are almost at the time for J-Hope and Crush's collab that is dropping just after midnight here in California. The song is Rush Hour, and I'm telling you, the teasers are already lit, as the kids would say. So,
as the kids who play duty calls would say.
As the kids who go on the World Wide Web to do the tweeter would say. So, Crush is Hobie's friend, and he's a noted R&B singer. And many of our listeners probably already love him for his contribution to the Goblin original soundtrack with Beautiful, which, you know, plays on repeat throughout the entire drama.
As it should.
So Rush Hour's, yeah, as it should. It's beautiful. And I didn't even mean to do that. Okay, so for Rush Hour, the sound is really smooth and it has a great beat. And I feel like it's the kind of song that you'll want to crank in sweater weather with a pumpkin spice latte while the crisp autumn air pours into your minivan. Or is that just me? I don't know. I'll let you know. But it's going to be amazing. If you enjoy our podcast, you have our patrons to thank, at least in part. Afternoona Delight Patreon allows us to keep creating content for y'all to enjoy. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us there. And not to brag, but our Patreon community is pretty awesome, and you can join at a tier that feels good to you. Gain access to fun perks like K-drama posts, monthly Patreon-only bonus podcasts, and even a live K-drama support group on Zoom. Because we know firsthand what it's like to have no one to talk to about those crazy plot twists, amazing characters, and all those feelings. And look, no one should have to walk that walk alone. So learn more by visiting afternoonadelight.com. That's www.afternoonadelight.com. And hey, while you're on the website, you can check out Afternoona Delight podcast merch, find links to book recommendations, bop along to our K-Pop Recs, glow up your skin with K-Merch Recs, find all of our social media, and a link to our email so you can send us recommendations or feedback. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you pop over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review? It really helps with our discoverability. 감사합니다. And I also just wanted to give a plug, because I am referencing J-Hope from BTS, that we do now have a spin-off podcast from Afternoona Delight, and it is called Afternoona Army. And it is now found on all streaming pod channels, and it's for people who are BTS fans or BTS curious, with the tagline of being thirsty, thinky, and over 30. So you don't have to be over 30 to listen to it, but it is kind of for like older fans, because, you know, there can be judgment about, you know, older fans who are still like, you know, loving on BTS or K-pop in general. And I am laughing because today I did have a listener who has gone back in their they're in like the Reply 1988 podcast. And apparently in the Reply 1988 podcast, I mentioned how much, you know, I love Reply 1988. And I feel like there should be a whole podcast just dedicated to Reply 1988, like unpacking Reply 1988. And I was like, I should do just more spin-off podcasts, but I can't, you know, I need to focus and not do that. And she's like, funny how you had that intention set and now you're spinning off and doing another podcast. You know, this is what happens. I am a very contradictory person, as I've said. And if I say I'm not going to do something or I don't like something, just wait 6 months and I'll be doing it and loving it.
Duty calls.
So duty calls. Check out Afternoona Army podcast. I will be there. I am going to drag Amy in to do some shows sometimes, because Amy is stepping into the warm purple light of BTS, and it makes me so happy. And you know what? Megan's likes it enough. Mm-hmm. So you know, you can come play too.
Okay.
I will just say that I play a new game with myself now, where I listen to BTS on the way home from work, and I see how well I can do identifying who's singing.
Oh, that's hard.
I play that game as well.
That is hard
to
do.
I mean, like, there are some people who are obviously like very, I mean, like Jimin.
You're always going
to know Jimin. And same with V. And V too. Like V is very, you know, very identifiable.
V has such a distinctive voice.
But like, yeah.
What it is if you can't tell who it is, it's JK. That's how you know, because he has like the most chameleon
I mean, I was
voice.
gonna say like JK has a very distinct voice, but also sometimes when Jin sings, he can sound like JK. So, but yeah. So anyway, it's fun, and my new favorite song is Microcosmos, and there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about a favorite K-drama romance trope. When a character falls hard and fast for their significant other. What's a green flag example of this?
You know, look, I love a good love at first sight trope, or lust at first sight. Love both of those. I write that pretty much every book. So I'm going to say absolutely Nam Do-san in Startup. I mean, he was pretty much a goner without even seeing the heroine. He like read her letter and fell in love, and just
I love it. I love it. I know that Startup is very split as far as like either you love it or you don't. I love that drama. Love it so much. And I love Nam Do-san. I love Big Boy too, but I love Nam Do-san.
Good boy. Good boy.
Oh, sorry. Big boy. Sorry.
Big boy.
Good boy.
I was like,
good boy. I'm getting.
There is no big boy. And you're thinking of Big Boss from Descendants of the Sun.
I'm transposing Big Boss and Good Boy. Sorry.
I like it.
Back it up.
Let's have a K-drama that just has a big boy
too.
in it.
Yeah.
I like Good Boy too, but Nam Do-san is it for me.
And Good Boy is a big boy.
Yes, Good Boy is a big boy. It's all right. It's all good. So for me, I chose The King Eternal Monarch because this is like a parallel universe as Love at First Sight, where he basically falls for so Lee Gon falls for Kim Tae-ul's badge, like her ID badge, that is left at the scene of his father's murder when he's almost murdered by his uncle when he's a kid, and
her face is on the badge.
Her face is on the badge. Yeah, her ID.
I
said it's her ID
like
badge. I said it's an ID badge.
Okay.
And he hangs on to this until he's a grown man, and when he finally does find out how he can cross universes and finds her for the first time, she's like, "Who is this creepy dude on a white horse in the middle of the street?" And he's like, I love you. So I love that. I love when there's a fantasy element to it as well, obviously, because I've talked about a lot how I love, fantasy and paranormal romances. But yeah, I love this sort of, star-crossed lovers, like literally across worlds, finding their way to be together. And insta-love.
Okay, so speaking of white horses, I'm going to take Maximus, the white horse, from the King's Affection, not King's Affection, what are we talking about? King Eternal Monarch. And I'm going to beat it till he dies, because I'm now talking about When the Camellia Blooms Again. And I love this drama. I love this hero. I'm back on Young Sik, and I want to talk about when he falls fast and hard for the heroine, because it starts off in a bookshop. And I just think, who doesn't want to find love in a bookshop? It's like life goals. And look, okay, when you see someone you think looks all right, it is not okay to stare a hole through their head. It's not great. But Young Sik is so truly innocent and charming. And he stands there watching Jung Baek like select a novel. And there's this narrative voiceover, because I just rewatched it because I loved it so much. And he's like, maybe it was because of the bookshop. Like, maybe if I'd met her in a marinated crab shop, it could have gone different.
Oh, I do remember that.
He's so earnest.
Oh, the earnestness
and then
is
he's like,
so sweet and endearing.
And then he's like, no, it's always her. So he's like, maybe it is like the bookshop fantasy if it was a marinated crab shop. And I was like, God, I just love you. So there we go.
So good.
So who is a K-drama actor who has played a red flag and a green flag hero well?
So I kind of went with Gong Yoo in one particular drama, in Coffee Prince, because I think he kind of shows both. So Gong Yoo in Coffee Prince in the beginning was so kind of like icky that Leah and I almost stopped watching it. And we're like, this is not going good places. I mean, he is like a total like Lothario, basically. And he wants the heroine to play his gay lover so that he can scare away blind dates that his grandma's setting him up on.
Yeah, so there's like the gay panic.
Yes, it's
gross,
just all,
like...
it's so, it's gross and icky and toxic, but then turns into something beautiful, as does his character. And I mean,
And it shouldn't work.
It should not work,
after
but
that
it
start.
does. And like all the way to the line, like, I don't care if you're a boy or an alien. Like, ugh, so good. So yeah, I mean, like, I just think it's a really good example of something that had the potential to be so toxic and gross and ended up being lovely.
So I went with Kim Woo Bin because his character as the poor little rich boy Young-do in Heirs is, very red flag.
But I love
Did I
him.
love Young-do?
But I love him.
I love Young-do. However, Young-do was like, you wouldn't want your daughter with Young-do.
No.
Let's put it that way. You don't want to date a Young-do yourself. Like lots of lack of boundaries, just a gaping void of need. Like just not good. And then he plays the kind, patient, loving, supportive sea captain Park Jung-joon in Our Blues.
I still have to watch this.
Who is so gentle, who gives the heroine space, who is emotionally available, who prioritizes her family, who makes space for her in his life, and is just generally a wonderful frickin' man with shoulders that could hold up the world like Atlas.
He's so beautiful.
I guess I need to talk about An Bo-hyun in every podcast, so this is the time I can do it. So first of all, he plays like an absolutely toxic asshole in Itaewon Class. Like every single part of him is a red flag. In Itaewon Class, there's 0 green flags.
0.
No.
And just since Amy mentioned, like Gong Yu in Coffee Prince being like red flag to green flag. I mean, I would say that's also him in his character as military prosecutor Doberman. He starts out so many red flags, whole red flags. And the same thing, he then had to learn what was so red flag about himself and turn those into green flags. Very similar. So I would say in military prosecutor Doberman, then he turns into this like self-sacrificing guy who's, willing to like watch the heroine like kick butt, and he is, instead of feeling emasculated, he's just really proud and he's like, yeah, you go. It's fantastic.
He's a huge green flag in her private life.
Yeah, and that too. Well, in military prosecutor Doberman too, he's just like, I'll be your dog. You tell me where to bark and where to bite, and I'll do it for you. I mean, that's
pretty hot.
Yeah, that was actually pretty hot. He did that too. So what is a relationship red flag that is actually a green flag? And let's unpack how that plays out in a K-drama.
Just to point out, like, Leah shared a really fun list for us. It's a BuzzFeed list that is relationship red flags that are actually green flags, which I thought was a really fun list. One of them was not being close with your family. And at first this can feel like a red flag because it's like, why don't you have any contact with your family? Like, you kind of would look at the hero and be like, what did you do wrong, kind of thing, right? But actually it might be the family that's toxic. And so they might be distancing themselves from a toxic relationship, which I think we see some toxic families a lot in K-dramas. Some K-drama heroes and heroines have some pretty toxic parents. I think a really great example of a character taking a step away from family because of toxicity is Yoon Suri in Crash Landing on You. She does not have a good relationship with her brothers. Her father only kind of wants to use her to manipulate her brothers. And then I guess it's her stepmom, right? Her stepmom, who hasn't really ever been able to show her love. There's a lot of issues there. And then Kim Tan in Heirs, and this is my third time to bring up Lee Min-ho tonight, is Kim Tan from Heirs. And because, he's in love with a girl of no means, no money. His mom is a kind of kept concubine to his father. And his father has a wife who kind of parades as Kim Tan's mother, but really she's not. And so it takes him a while to kind of pull away and like be proud and like admit who his real mother is in public, and to love the woman that he's going to love despite, his father trying to get rid of her. And we have a lot of that with, like Chable and Air type people, where the parents are always trying to, pay off the heroine to get rid of her. And the hero either goes along with that or has to sort of step away. And then just kind of a honorable mention to Lee Joon-gi in Flower of Evil, stepping away from connection with his father because, his father was a serial killer.
Okay, so for me, I'm going to do sleeping in separate bedrooms. Because, look, this relationship red flag that I think can be a green flag is, for some people, this works really well. And I always thought it was interesting that my sister, for example, even when she first started dating her husband and, then moved in with him, they always had separate rooms. And at first I thought it just seemed unusual because it's not the norm. And now I think that there's, a mad genius to it because they have their own space and they come together when they choose to. And I think it's in some ways very healthy and boundary setting. And lately for work, I end up sleeping, apart from my partner, during the month when I'm on call for work. And again, it's kind of nice to just be like, oh, this is my space and I'm going to have some time. And then I don't know, there's just something nice about choice and not having everything just be routine and I don't know. There's something just cool about it. And so with Crash Landing on You, look, they take it very far. He crawls through a tunnel on his belly like a slithering slug to not sleep with her. But you know what? Good. If they want their own boundaries and their own space, I'm going to pretend that they hook up on the couch.
One can hope.
Yeah, I mean, just as long as they're doing it somehow.
So this conversation has been pretty cishet focused, but queer folk need all the green flags as well. So what's a favorite queer green flag example?
So I had this in here before Leah talked about Patrick as being the best green flag hero. Just letting y'all know that. But yeah, I'm going Western for this one because I've watched just more Western queer shows at this point than I have Korean. And for me, it's the combination of David and Patrick on Schitt's Creek. So many examples, but I'll give you two of my favorites that show that both of them can have their greenest, green flag moments, even with them being such different personalities. So there's an episode where, spoiler, David wets the bed, when he's sleeping at Patrick's place. It is mortifying. Hilarious, but mortifying. And Dave, this line happens and I love it. David's like, well, we have to get divorced now. And they're not even married yet. So it's so cute and funny. And while Patrick is a little cheeky about it in his reaction, he does it with love and he doesn't make David feel bad about it. And it's lovely. He comforts David in his extreme mortification. And then kind of turning the tables, another example is my favorite episode called Olive Branch. And in this episode, Patrick is angry at David because they were estranged for a little bit, with a lot to do with Patrick's past relationship with a woman that he was supposed to marry. And they were estranged and David needed some time away and Patrick was showering him with gifts. And David forgave Patrick long before the gifts stopped coming because he just kind of liked getting stuff. And Patrick found out that David wanted to get back together but was just kind of holding out for more presents. And Patrick's like, no, you need to sit in your shame for a little bit. And so David wants to make up for it. And so David's olive branch that he sends to him or offers to him goes with what Leah was talking about earlier. She called Patrick the butter-voiced beau, which is what Moira calls him, because there's an episode where they have an open mic at their general store at Rose Apothecary, and Patrick does an acoustic rendition of Tina Turner's Simply the Best and sings it to David, and it's beautiful and lovely, and it's the best little serenade. So David, not being as talented as Patrick in the singing department, does an over-the-top lip sync, where he sits Patrick in a chair, hits play on the music, and does this over-the-top lip sync to Simply the Best to basically apologize to Patrick. And even the actor Dan Levy said that he had to drink a bottle of Prosecco before he could do this scene because it was so over the top and vulnerable, not just for himself as an actor, but for David as a character. And so they're both, just the best queer green flags.
Okay. So for me, look, I'm going to go to Color Rush and Yi Hyun. So I'm not going to talk about Color Rush 2. I didn't like it. I didn't finish it. I pretend it didn't exist. I don't know what happened. Did Yuhan just decide he wasn't going to do it anymore? I don't know. So anyway, just scratch that Color Rush 2 exists. Color Rush 1 is all we're talking about. But look, Yuhan in season 1. This is the short premise of this drama, and we've done a whole pod on it, is that there are people in the world known as monos, and they cannot see color. And then if they like match up with like their person, they'll have a color rush and they can like see the world in color. And Yuhan allows his mono to see color, and the boy memorizes the entire spectrum of color existence for his boo.
He must spend a lot of time at Home Depot. Like,
I mean, he'll just sit and tell him the colors. And they are very specific. Like, can you even remember it, Megan? He'd be like, light blue, velvet blue, ocean blue, umber,
all the different. And the way he said
brown,
the way he said blue was so cool. Like blue. Yeah.
And like, you know, he I mean, like half the drama, I think, like I spent at least an hour listening to colors, and I just love it.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a Thai drama, because Thai drama has tons of queer, specifically like boy love type dramas. This is A Tale of a Thousand Stars, and like, look, the premise is just great. It's like a very great trope. It's basically like a city boy teacher has to travel to like the Thai country, like the country, to teach children. And there's like military stationed there to like protect the villagers and things like that. And it's really like this enemies to lovers with the teacher and one of the guards. But once the relationship kicks off, it's just tons of green flags. The military character, he's played by Earth. He's just so wholesome, very alpha. He loves his community and loves the children. He helps the character played by Mix just to do like cute little crafty things with the children. Like he'll like embarrass himself just to like make the kids laugh. And it's just really, really sweet. And like this too is like such a slow burn. Like some of the Thai dramas can be definitely like really racy, but this one was just like, even a kiss was just like when they finally kiss, you're just so happy because it finally happens. And yeah, it was just a really, really sweet drama. Like this one, like I binged in a stupid amount of time. I could not stop watching it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Thai dramas, especially at the moment as well. They're just they're short too, and so it's kind of like a good, like, you know, you can like get a good fix and get something really like emotional and angsty, and then like pop out, and I think that's really fun.
And we have a podcast on Kin Porsche, which is obviously the Thai drama that like, you know, really blew up. But we talk about how Kin is horrible, like full of red flags. But throughout the drama, he really, really becomes a great boyfriend. Truly.
Oh, yeah.
Because he finally asked for consent.
Yeah.
The back half of the drama. So, yeah. So what is a green flag plotline that you want the universe to grant K-drama land?
So, look, something I would love, and universe, so far, you know, you've been good to me. I want a K-pop idol / bodyguard romance where the idol is beloved by the world, but oh so lonely. And the bodyguard is a person who obviously protects, but like is that nice guy on the streets, Dark Lord in the sheets sort of thing. I just think that would be amazing.
I would give my right arm for that. Like similar to like Bodyguard with like Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. Hello?
Yeah. And this could be a straight or queer. It. I don't care.
I'll take anything.
I just want either.
I honestly would kill for it.
And I really want there to be a scene where the idol isn't eating and the bodyguard encourages them to eat through like some sort of like wild mukbang. And I would be way into that.
I need a scene where she's being like rushed by like people in an airport, and he takes charge and he picks her up and carries her over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes, but like takes off and protects her. And he maybe also pushes a few people physically. I need that. I need that.
I just can't believe there hasn't really been like a big K-drama with an idol.
Like with an idol as the star, right? Like we've had idol side characters, but like an idol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we haven't had
There's
a full...
really not a lot. I want like IU level fame. K-pop idol.
Yeah.
Like I want
like the bodyguard.
I don't want training. Yeah, I want like a K-pop idol at his or her peak.
Yes.
And the bodyguard manager.
And the wild fans.
Like, why do we not...
Like, you know, the Sessing fans and, yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, like, how was that not happening?
I don't
like,
know.
Like, there was, like, AT's news where, like, they had these fans that literally put trackers on their cars. Like, hello, I want a bodyguard finds those tracker. I want him to stomp it beneath his, like, perfect
big black
wingtip
no,
shoe.
big
Like
black
a steel-toed boot. Yeah, like a steel-toed
big
boot.
black boot. Like a shit kicker. And then he just like rages.
Yep.
But he's only a green flag to the idol. I need that so
right?
bad.
Like, come on, universe.
Oh my gosh. Seriously. Like there's so many things that I'm like rooting for. Like we talked, I'm going to bring up Extraordinary Attorney Woo again, because in our second episode, one of our guests had a really great idea for what season 2 of Extraordinary Attorney Woo should be. And I want them to realize her suggestion. So anyway, I feel like a broken record here. I want a vampire drama. I know that there's some stuff out there, but it's few and far between. I want a grumpy vampire drama, and I think I want it to be male. And I want the second hero to be a vampire hunter who falls for his prey. And I think I want the human, the hunter, to be the alpha with the fanny pack, and the vampire to be world weary and ready to let the hunter kill him until, of course, you know, they fall in love.
God, I want that.
Yeah.
Oh
right?
God, I would eat that up.
Come on.
Maybe we just need to do a whole show on like the dramas we want to see.
We just need to like beat sheet these, and then
I think
it's
we
our
should.
intellectual property though. So, you know, Studio Dragon, bring us in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this before. What I want an assassin who falls for his mark.
Love this.
I freaking love this, and I've mentioned it before. He's going to decide to risk his retirement and his life to help her get revenge on the people who want her dead. So, like, very similar to, like, My Name, when An Bo-hyun's just like, never mind, I'm going to fuck everyone up for you. And, like, is by her side.
Differently.
Ends quite differently. But, yeah, I know I've said that before, but I'm, like, always down for a good, like, assassin romance. Like, yeah, I mean, we should just beat sheet.
I mean, these would be fun books too. Like, now that I think about it.
Yeah, they would.
I know. I just think like for me, it's like, you know, we get tripped up on like, you know, we're not like, you know, these are our own voices stories often. And so,
we joke,
I'm
we
not gonna be the
joke,
one.
we joke when we say,
Yeah.
But that's the thing, and that's what I want. I want a K-drama in this. I want someone to give it to me.
Yeah.
I want someone else,
and I will tee it
give
up.
me.
I will tee it up if that helps. I will be like, this is what the fans would like, and this is the fan experience I would like. I would like to be like when Jin went to like his Maple game in his little cardigan, and he got to sit down with like the producers of his favorite video game and be like, this is what I need in my fan experience. And I was like, you know what? That is how you use your power and privilege in this world.
Yes, yeah, I will tee it up, but I need you to like swing. Yeah. And I need you to provide the golf club ironwood thing.
And then just hit me in the face.
I mean, we're giving you the goal giving you the goal, motivation, and conflict right here in our little blurbs. All you got to do is make 12 to 16 episodes out of it. That's all we're asking.
And give me An Bo-hyun in it.
Can you imagine An Bo-hyun as the bodyguard?
Oh
my! Stop!
Can you?
Stop!
Can you
stop? Well, yeah, and you're making me mad.
He would be perfect.
I want that. Can you imagine him just like stomping a tracker
in like
just like
all black,
and then he finds the the car maybe who's been
And he's
tracking
like
them
pissed and
just,
has his crazy eye.
and he just like takes a bat or a golf club and just like beats
And maybe
the
we can
windshield.
take a
That's what I
we
want.
can take
That's-
a page from the CW here, and instead of having him do shirtless push-ups, we see him doing shirtless salmon ladder.
Oh yeah. Yes, the salmon ladder.
Like I'm not like this. We're giving this
Seriously,
to you on a song.
we are offering it up to you, K-Drama Land. Take this, make it. We will watch it.
Okay.
And what if the idol is like Quan Nara?
Yeah,
Ooh. I mean, honestly, I'd be like, hey, let's just bring IU in and just lean into
let
it.
IU be the idol.
Yeah. I
Just
don't
let her
care.
smile.
Just
Let
like
her
give
smile.
me an idol with
And then a
like
killer
hot bodyguard.
OST to go with it.
Yes.
Oh my god, yes. Have V sing something.
Have V sing everything.
Have V be the idol.
V could also be a good vampire.
He could.
V would be a very good
I
man.
mean, he'd be a good assassin too, honestly.
All right,
my
so
God.
Kim
So, I mean,
Tae-hyung in
just
all
come
three of these.
On. Yeah. Oh my god, he would be such a good. Oh, can you imagine Kim Tae-young and like Park Seo-joon? So Park Seo-joon is the bodyguard.
Fuck.
And Kim Tae-young is the idol? I would lose my mind.
And he's carrying him over his
Oh
shoulder.
my god!
Oh my god.
Make it stop. Oh my god.
Park Seo-joon salmon ladder, please.
The Park Seo-joon salmon ladder. Okay, so Park Seo-joon is actually, yes, that's who I want as the bodyguard. I want An Bo-hyun as the assassin. And
Yes.
then who do we have as the grumpy vampire? I mean,
Doesn't it have to be the guy from Tomorrow?
Oh,
It has to be him. I would say Lee Jun-gi.
I was going to say Lee Jun-gi, who's already
he's
been a vampire, but
not
not this kind of vampire.
Not this kind of vampire. Lee Jun-gi could totally do it.
Lee
Actually,
Jun-gi
what about
or Lee Soo-hyuk.
What about Lee
Lee
Dong-wook
Soo-hyuk
again? Like
could
Lee
do
Dong-wook hasn't been in anything in a
Dong-wook
while,
could
and he
totally
would
do
be
it.
an amazing grumpy vampire.
Yes, Lee Dong-wook.
Oh my god, he'd be so good. And MC1 is the hunter. I mean,
That-
come on. It's just the chemistry is already there.
It actually writes itself.
I know.
Fuck.
God.
I mean, vampire hunter who falls for his prey. Stop. We've been talking about this one for a long time too.
Yes,
Amy.
we have. Like Leah and I talked about writing. This,
We've actually plotted this. We've plotted a version of this.
but we plotted a vampire who was a vampire hunter.
Yes, which is also hot.
Yeah, also hot.
What, like Blade?
I don't
yeah,
know.
but not Blade. Yeah, Blade, but not
Okay.
Blade.
I mean, that's hot.
Yeah.
Blade's great. I mean, just the whole
Yes.
like mythos or whatever of Blade is awesome.
Yeah, basically like a vampire who punishes bad vampires.
Right. Which is yes, I
Like-
see.
Yeah, like when they like are outside the bounds of like you
Like
know
Sheriff
vampire
Eric,
conduct.
Sheriff Eric Northman.
Yeah.
Like Lee Dong-wook was punishing like bad gumios.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like
Yes.
that vampire, the vampire who like, you know, is there to come in and enforce like the rules of vampire, like, you know, to keep their society safe.
Now that is hot.
Okay, well, now I'm
look
just
at
like,
what we
fuck,
presented.
I've got my
I know.
2023 lineup and I'm pissed I can't
know.
watch any of these.
I'm all worked up now.
Well, okay, on that note,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with myself because I have this like longing
know.
now for
Yeah.
stories that are
Yes.
happening.
yeah. So universe, let's all go together in a single, hear our plea.
Bodyguard,
Like, I feel-
assassin, vampire.
Come on.
Setting the intention, manifesting.
We get to have this.
We do.
Yes.
We do.
And on that note, everyone, annyeong.
Annyeong.
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!